unlucky man. I've always thought of myself as the kind of guy who could trip over a wireless internet connection. Some people call it bad luck. I call it destiny. My mom, bless her, used to say I was born under a broken star, which was her polite way of saying I had the kind of luck that made people nervous just standing next to me. Take my birth, for example. Most babies are born in a sterile hospital with a team of doctors and nurses. Me, the hospital lost power during a freak storm. No electricity, no backup generator, just darkness and panic. I made my grand entrance under the glow of a flashlight held by a janitor named Earl. My very first photo looks like a smudged Picasso painting. I still don't know if that was because of the storm or Earl's shaky hands. Things didn't improve much after that. In the second grade, I discovered my love for running. I wasn't great at it, but I was fast enough to dream about trophies. My first race was supposed to be the start of my Olympic career. Halfway through, I felt a stabbing pain in my foot. I ignored it because, champions push through. Turns out I'd stepped on a nail during warm-ups and didn't realize until I'd limped across the finish line. I came in dead last, crying in pain and clutching my participation ribbon like it was a Medal of Honor. In middle school, my bad luck got creative. Once, I spent hours perfecting a science project, a meticulously built model of a suspension bridge. On the day of the presentation, I tripped on the stairs and sent the entire thing flying into the janitor's mop bucket. I ended up presenting a soggy pile of sticks and glue while the other kids paraded their pristine volcanoes and solar systems. My teacher gave me points for imagination, which was basically pity in disguise. High school was no kinder. One time, I found a $20 bill on the ground and thought my luck had finally turned. I ran home excitedly to show my mom, but on the way, I tripped over my own shoelaces and watched in horror as the bill sailed out of my hand and into a storm drain. I spent the rest of the afternoon trying to fish it out with a stick, only to lose my balance and fall into the ditch myself. Let's just say I smelled like the city sewer for days. By the time I hit college, I'd resigned myself to being a walking disaster. My dorm room was always the one with the leaky ceiling or the flickering lights. I once tried to impress a girl by cooking dinner in the communal kitchen, only for the fire alarm to go off when I burned the pasta. She left before the sprinklers soaked us both. Then there was the time I accidentally locked my girlfriend's keys in her car while it was still running, outside her parents' house during a family dinner. Her dad had to break the window to turn the engine off, and I'm pretty sure she still blames me for the whole thing. Still, I always figured things could be worse. And then they were. My death? Oh, you'll love this. I was jogging one morning trying to reclaim my glory days, nail-free this time, when I saw a little old lady crossing the street. A car came barreling toward her and I thought, this is it, my moment to be a hero. I sprinted, pushed her out of the way, and got hit by a different car. That's right. The first car swerved into a telephone pole. I got mowed down by someone checking their phone. Even in death, I couldn't win. So, here I am. Dead. A ghost. Turns out dying doesn't fix bad luck. It just gives it more time to mess with you. For months, I wandered aimlessly. I couldn't knock things over or haunt anyone properly. My only accomplishment was being ignored by everyone, including other ghosts. Until her. 2 houses down from where I died, there was a little girl named Sophie. She saw me. Not just in the I think there's a shadow in the corner way. She really saw me. Stared right at me like I wasn't part of the furniture. At first, I was thrilled. I thought maybe she was my purpose, my reason for sticking around. But Sophie wasn't your average kid. She didn't draw rainbows or play tea party. She burned her dolls' faces and talked about how much she hated her little brother. She's just creative, I told myself, ignoring the way she giggled when she snapped the heads off her toys. Kids are weird. But Sophie wasn't just weird. She was dark. I started noticing the little things. The way she always lingered near sharp objects, or how her games often involved elaborate traps for imaginary villains. Once I saw her draw a picture of her family, but She'd scribbled her brother out with such force that the paper tore. It gave me a chill, but I told myself I was overthinking it. Sophie didn't just hate her brother, she obsessed over it. She talked to me like I was her diary, telling me about all the ways she wanted him gone. I thought she was venting, the way kids do when they don't get enough attention. Then she started making plans.
I'm going to push him.
She whispered one day, staring at me like I was her accomplice.
Off the swing. He'll hit the rocks, and it'll be his fault for being clumsy.
At first I laughed nervously. Kids say the creepiest things, right? But when I saw her lead him to the swing set, my stomach dropped. It was surreal. Her face a mask of innocence. She gave him a push, and for a moment, it looked like nothing would happen. Then his grip slipped. He hit the rocks hard. Blood pooled under his head as Sophie stood there, blinking like she just dropped an ice cream cone. Their mom ran out screaming. Sophie started crying too. Big crocodile tears that had everyone fooled. No one suspected her. The whole thing was written off as a tragic accident. 2 weeks later, the family moved away. And just like that, I was alone again. The silence of the afterlife was heavier now. Before Sophie, it had been static, background noise I could ignore. But now, it felt oppressive, like a physical weight pressing down on me. I couldn't stop replaying that day in my mind, the moment her brother slipped. The way Sophie had stood there, frozen for just a beat too long before screaming for help. Had I done enough? Could I have done more? Every ghost story I'd ever heard told me I should have been able to intervene. A flicker of light, a gust of wind, something. But not me. In life, I'd never been able to change anything that mattered, so why should death be any different? I wandered the neighborhood for weeks, retracing my old steps, desperate for a purpose. I tried watching other families, listening for signs that someone else could see me, but it was like I didn't exist. The loneliness was unbearable, but even worse was the doubt creeping into my mind. What if Sophie wasn't the monster I thought she was? What if I'd misread her entirely? Kids are cruel sometimes, it doesn't mean they're evil. What if her brother's fall really was just an accident, and I'd convinced myself otherwise because I needed her to be something she wasn't? It wasn't like I had a stellar track record for understanding people. Or worse, what if she was evil, and I'd been too weak to stop her? What if, even in death, I was doomed to be the same powerless, unlucky fool I'd been in life? I felt like I was unraveling. Time lost meaning. I'd spend what felt like hours staring at the swing set, waiting for something, anything, to happen. Sometimes, I thought I heard faint laughter in the wind, like the universe was mocking me. Other times, it was Sophie's voice, echoing in my mind.
I wish he was gone. Forever.
I couldn't let it go. I started piecing together every moment I'd spent with Sophie, replaying her words, her gestures, her expressions. Was there a clue I'd missed? A sign of what she was capable of? I thought about her dolls, the burned faces, the missing limbs, her dark mutterings about schoolmates and her brother. I'd dismissed so much of it at the time, chalking it up to childish frustration, but now I saw the malice in every little thing. It wasn't just her brother she'd hated. It was everyone. But why? What had made her that way? And why had she been able to see me when no one else could? One night, as I sat by the swing set, a thought struck me. What if Sophie hadn't just seen me? What if she'd chosen me? I wasn't just unlucky. I was invisible, overlooked, forgotten. I'd spent my whole life feeling like I didn't matter, and Sophie had latched onto that. She saw me because I was the perfect audience for her darkness. I'd been so desperate for connection that I'd ignored all the signs. I'd let her use me, let her confide in me, let her feed off me. And when the time came to act, I'd failed to stop her. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. My bad luck wasn't just a curse. It was a vacuum, a void. I didn't just attract misfortune, I created it. The house sat empty for months, the swing set rusting in the backyard. I stayed, unable to leave. I didn't know if it was guilt, curiosity, or something darker that kept me tethered to that spot. I thought about following Sophie, trying to track her down, but the idea terrified me. What if I found her? What would I even do? So I stayed, haunting the place where it had all gone wrong. I watched new families come and go, their lives unfolding like clockwork. Birthdays, arguments, holidays, all the mundane little moments that had never felt quite real to me when I was alive. I wondered if any of them could feel my presence, if they ever noticed the cold spots or the faint creak of floorboards when no one was around. As the days stretched into years, I thought about my life, the little accidents, the failures, the humiliations. What if they weren't coincidences? What if my bad luck wasn't just random? Eventually, I stopped trying to make sense of it and started asking different questions. If nothing mattered, why was I still here? Why couldn't I just disappear? As I sat by the swing set, staring at the rusted chains that once carried Sophie's brother to his fall, it wasn't just guilt or regret that kept me tethered. It was something worse, the fear that my life had meant nothing. All my missteps, my tiny catastrophes, my endless string of failures. Had they ever added up to anything? Or was I just some cosmic afterthought, a character without a story? As I stared at the swing, it creaked softly, moving ever so slightly in the breeze. But there was no wind. I felt a chill crawl up my spine, not from fear, but from the realization that maybe, just maybe, I wasn't as alone as I thought. I sit here now, staring at the swing set where it all went wrong, and I wonder, was I ever anything more than a punchline in someone else's joke? Or was I the joke itself? Maybe I'll never know, but I do know this. I was unlucky in life, unlucky in death, and now, as the swing creaks softly with no wind to move it, I realize I'm not just a ghost. I'm a ghost haunted by another. I'm invisible to the living, ignored by other ghosts, and yet, here I am, burdened by a presence that refuses to let me go. It's as if my misfortune has taken form, a specter that mocks me in silence, a shadow of all the things I failed to change. If I'm still here tomorrow, perhaps it will be too, an eternal reminder that even in death, I can't escape being unlucky. Maybe that's the cruelest twist of all. Some say luck is just a roll of the dice, but what if it's more? What if it lingers, shaping not just our lives, but what comes after? If this story left you wondering, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to The Haunt Vault. Hit the bell icon so you won't miss the next time we unlock another story. Until then, remember, sometimes the unluckiest thing of all is being forgotten.